The anime opens with a young boy asking a quiet yet philosophical question. What does it truly mean to see? He sits in an extravagant room surrounded by his wealthy family and several servants, making it immediately clear that money is not something this household lacks. The boy's name is Kunan, and he was born without sight. Having never experienced colors or shapes, he struggles to understand the world around him. This condition has shaped him into a gloomy, withdrawn child who believes he was dealt a particularly cruel fate. Those around Kunan care for him deeply and do their best to explain what sight is like. Unfortunately, their well-meaning efforts only make things worse. Every explanation reminds Kunan that seeing is something he will never experience. Instead of feeling comforted, he feels excluded, as though everyone else is living in a vibrant painting while he is trapped behind a wall, listening to descriptions of it. Soon after, Kunan's personal servant, Iko, escorts him to his magic lesson. Because of the family's immense wealth, the lesson takes place inside the palace, and the teacher functions more like a private tutor than a standard instructor. Kunan is far from excited. He questions the point of learning magic when he cannot even walk freely without help. In his mind, studying magic without sight feels like trying to draw a masterpiece without ever seeing the canvas. Iko disagrees and reminds him that he was born with a rare water magic crest. Letting such talent go to waste, he argues, would be nothing short of a tragedy. Inside the classroom, Kunan greets his magic teacher, Jenny. She begins with a basic spell, teaching him how to create a small ball of water, roughly the size of an eyeball. That simple spell becomes a turning point of Kunan's life. For the first time, a realization strikes him. If magic can create water, then perhaps magic can create eyes that can see. From that moment on, Kunan takes his training seriously. His personality changes dramatically. Once gloomy and detached, he becomes noticeably more cheerful. Even during breakfast, he begins asking questions about his food, curious about what it looks like. For someone who once ate in complete indifference, this sudden enthusiasm is nothing short of revolutionary. Driven by curiosity, Kunan visits his history teacher and asks to hear the tale of the Holy Knight, Hister Huglia. She recounts the legend of a demon lord who once terrorized a nation and the knight who stood against it. Hister emerged victorious but lost an arm and a leg in the process. According to legend, his descendants are occasionally born missing something, an arm, a leg, or even their eyesight. Kunan is one such descendant, which explains both his blindness and his extraordinary magical potential. Inspired, Kunan throws himself into training. He quickly discovers that talent alone is not enough. While he can create and divide water spheres, doing so drains him rapidly, leaving him completely exhausted. To improve his stamina, he takes up sword training, reasoning that physical strength will support his magical growth. After finishing sword practice, he immediately moves on to magic lessons, leaving Jenny to wonder whether the boy ever plans on resting. The results are astonishing. Kunan soon manages to create 7 water spheres at once, shocking Jenny completely. His rate of growth is far beyond normal, and she begins to quietly question whether she is still qualified to teach him. The story then shifts to Princess Marika, Kunan's fiancée. Her servant informs her that the carriage is ready to depart for her future husband's estate. Marika feels little excitement, fully aware that the engagement is political. She also remembers Kunan as a gloomy and unpleasant boy. However, when she meets him again, she is caught off guard. Kunan is cheerful, energetic, and even playful. He shows her a few magic tricks, quickly winning her over. The two spend time laughing and playing together, and when Marika departs, she genuinely hopes to see him again soon. Motivated by this encounter, Kunan decides to better himself not only as a mage, but also as a future husband. He begins studying proper manners, especially how to behave around women, an endeavor that proves just as challenging as magic training. Meanwhile, Jenny is quietly panicking. Kunan's progress is so rapid that she realizes she may soon have nothing left to teach him. What was meant to be an easy tutoring job to pay the bills has turned into a professional nightmare. Determined not to fall behind, she spent the entire night preparing a new lesson. The next day, Jenny teaches Kunan how to alter the properties of his water magic. She demonstrates by creating 1 warm water sphere and 1 cold one, explaining how to control their qualities. To her shock, Kunan masters the technique on his first attempt, and goes one step further by producing water that tastes like plum. At that point, Jenny begins to suspect she may actually be raising a monster and not the demon lord kind. That night, Kunan lies awake thinking about colors. Because he cannot see them, they remain an unsolved mystery that deeply troubles him. The following morning, he creates another water sphere at breakfast and tests it against a bowl of apples containing different colors. He suddenly stands up in shock. For the first time in his life, he can distinguish between red and green. He cannot see the colors, but his magic allows him to perceive the difference. Iko reports his breakthrough to Kunan's father, who is overjoyed. Kunan's abilities continue to evolve, allowing him to read books by recognizing the ink through magic alone, a truly revolutionary development. However, The story quickly reminds viewers that magic is not without danger. In one unfortunate accident, Kyunan creates a red-tinted water sphere above his head, which bursts and splashes over both him and Iko. To anyone watching, it looks as though Kyunan has been drenched in blood. The sight is so shocking that his mother immediately faints, proving that while magic can work miracles, it can also cause extremely dramatic misunderstandings. The next episode opened with Kyunan's father making what he considered a crucial decision about his youngest son's future. He summoned his eldest child, Ixio Gurion, and informed him that Kyunan would be enrolling in the noble school. Ixio was understandably startled by the announcement. Kyunan was blind, after all, and this was hardly a small matter. As his father spoke, Ixio's thoughts drifted to a memory from their childhood. He remembered inviting Kyunan to play with him, hoping to cheer up his usually gloomy younger brother. Kyunan had hesitated, pointing out, quite reasonably, that he could not see the ground, the field, or, frankly, anything at all. Ixio had enthusiastically assured him that it would still be fun. Unfortunately, reality had been less kind. Before the playtime had even begun, Kyunan had tripped and fallen, leaving Ixio standing there, feeling like the world's most incompetent older brother. Shaking off the memory, Ixio returned to the present and told his father that if Kyunan chose to attend the noble school, he would have his older brother's full support. Not long afterward, Kyunan himself was summoned to his parents' chambers to discuss the matter. As he made his way there, he wondered what could possibly have prompted his father to call for him, something that almost never happened. Just before entering the room, he ran into Ixio and greeted him with unexpected cheer. Ixio was momentarily stunned by his younger brother's carefree demeanor. For most of Kyunan's childhood, gloom had been his default setting, and enthusiasm had been in short supply. Kyunan soon met with his parents, who explained the situation. They clearly hoped he would attend the noble school, but they emphasized that the final decision would be his alone. Members of noble families were generally expected to attend such schools in order to function properly in society. Kyunan, however, was exempt from this obligation due to his blindness. Even so, his father warned him that those without a noble school education were often looked down upon, and that refusing to attend could cause serious difficulties for him later in life. Although the conversation was plainly about school, Kyunan began to suspect that his father had some hidden agenda. He abruptly concluded that the real issue must be his allowance, convinced that his father believed he spent it irresponsibly. This assumption led to a brief and entirely pointless argument. After that detour, Kyunan finally decided that attending the school might actually be a good idea. His father then explained that the school required students to pass 5 examinations in order to graduate. Each successful exam brought them one step closer to becoming a fully functioning member of society. Because Kyunan was blind, the exams would be scheduled at much shorter intervals, allowing him to graduate more quickly than other students. Kyunan's mother was thrilled by the decision and immediately began planning his new wardrobe. Marika was equally delighted when she heard the news and promised to show Kyunan around the school. Kyunan worried that other boys might resent him for being engaged to someone as beautiful as Marika, but she casually dismissed the concern. The day of departure soon arrived, and Kyunan looked as charming as a boy his age possibly could in his new clothes. Before boarding the carriage to school with Ixio, he wrapped its wheels in water magic, ensuring a smooth ride. Ixio was deeply impressed, and Kyunan could even sense when they were nearing the school, thanks to his growing ability to perceive the presence of people nearby. Upon arriving, the first person Kyunan encountered was his fiancée, Princess Marika. She complimented his bow tie, declaring it fabulous. Kyunan, ever flirt, worried aloud that it might look better than Marika herself, a claim she immediately rejected. He jokingly added that if that were true, he would tear the bow tie apart, since nothing in the world deserved to outshine her. Ixio could only cringe in silence, wondering what exactly had happened to his little brother since learning magic. Kyunan then managed to escalate his antics by asking Marika if she could be a boy for the day. To his surprise, she agreed and took on the role of his guide around campus. During their tour, they eventually met the teacher responsible for overseeing Kyunan's education. She led him to an isolated classroom and explained that he would need to pass 5 exams. While there was normally a long gap between each one, Kyunan's exams would be held much closer together, at his father's request. Despite this explanation, Kyunan appeared completely at ease as the first exam began. He even continued chatting with the teacher during it. To her astonishment, every question he attempted was answered correctly, revealing an intellect far beyond what she had expected from an ordinary student. After a long day, Kyunan reunited with Marika, and the two decided to head to the cafeteria for a meal. On the way, they ran into Lao, Marika's older brother. As a member of the royal family, he intimidated most of the students, and true to form, he attempted to bully Kyunan as well. Ixio stepped forward to intervene, but it quickly became clear that his help was unnecessary. Kyunan calmly uses water magic to soak Lao's pants, making it look as though he had wet himself. The surrounding students quickly drew their own conclusions. Unable to bear the humiliation, Lao withdrew. Kyunan and Marika continued on to enjoy their meal together, while Ixio was left with a single overriding thought. He really hoped he would not get dragged into trouble again. The next episode opens with Kyunan cheerfully continuing his meal in the school cafeteria alongside Marika and his elder brother. On the surface, everything appears calm, almost cozy, but despite having handled the earlier confrontation with impressive wit and speed, Kyunan remains visibly unsettled by Prince Lyle's behavior. He admits that he cannot wrap his head around why Prince Lyle would treat his own sister with such open rudeness and outright violence. In response, Marika explains, patiently and with the tired wisdom of someone who has lived it, the less glamorous side of royal life. She tells Kyunan that as a ninth princess, she ranks below Prince Lyle in the royal hierarchy, which already places her at a disadvantage. However, matters become even more complicated due to her engagement to Kyunan. Not only is he a sorcerer, but he also bears a hero's scar, an unfortunate combination if one wishes to avoid attention. This engagement, Marika explains, has given her an unintentional and rather dramatic boost in status, despite the fact that she never asked for it. As a result, she has managed to turn her own brother into an enemy, and, judging by how royal politics work, he will likely not be the last. She remarks dryly that life as royalty is far from a fairy tale and is certainly not a bed of roses. More like a rose garden with very sharp thorns and no gloves. Marika then makes it clear that she has no interest in climbing the social ladder or chasing prestige. What truly matters to her is Kyunan himself. She says she genuinely likes the person he has become and cannot imagine being with anyone else. This heartfelt confession leaves Kyunan in a dazed state of happiness, as if reality itself has briefly forgotten to function. Without hesitation, he declares that he feels the same way and has no intention of ever choosing anyone else. Once his emotional equilibrium returns, somewhat, Kyunan announces that he wants to repair the bridge he just burned with Prince Lyle. He explains that he believes they simply started off on the wrong foot, and that making enemies on campus, especially royal ones, sounds like a terrible long-term strategy. He proposes apologizing to the prince and clearing the misunderstanding. This idea, however, is met with an immediate and unmistakable chill. Both Marika and his elder brother reject the proposal outright, their expressions making it painfully clear that while Kyunan's intentions may be noble, his optimism is dangerously naive. The following day, Kyunan resumes his sorcerer training under Jeannie's guidance. She instructs him to form a water ball and alter its texture using magic alone. Kyunan accomplishes the task effortlessly, treating the exercise as little more than a warm-up. Jeannie concludes the lesson by advising him to continue gathering sensory impressions from different objects, explaining that doing so will help him manipulate the texture of his water creations with even greater precision. Soon after, the long-awaited day arrives. Kyunan heads to school for the final time, as this marks his graduation exam. At the front gate, he meets Ixio and Marika. After giving Marika a pointed look, Kyunan dramatically expresses how deeply his heart aches at the thought of them parting ways after today. Marika, ever practical, reminds him that they still have the entire evening together. The mere thought of spending time with his future wife instantly sweeps away his gloom, as though it had never existed in the first place. Together, they head into the school. Once inside, Kyunan learns that he will be taking the exam alongside his classmates. For the first time, he finds himself in a room filled with students his own age. Curiosity spreads quickly, and several classmates approach Marika, asking her to introduce them to her fiancé. Kyunan takes the initiative and introduces himself with such refined eloquence that the class briefly wonders whether another royal has secretly enrolled. He remarks that he is relieved to see Marika as friends, admitting he had worried she might be the quiet, lonely type. He also admits, internally, that he had avoided bringing this up before out of fear of sounding rude. Marika takes mild offense and promptly clarifies that she is, in fact, quite popular. She adds that she deliberately kept her friends from approaching Kyunan earlier because she wanted their time together to remain private. Kyunan gratefully agrees, noting that he enjoyed her company more than anything else. Not long after, the exam is about to begin, until Prince Lyle makes his entrance. He will also be taking the final exam, much to everyone's dismay. In a mood as foul as ever, the prince asserts his presence with practiced arrogance, fully aware that no one would dare challenge him. He stirs trouble for no clear reason, emboldened by the silence of those around him. Although Prince Lyle knows exactly what people think of him behind his back, no one ever has the courage to face him directly. That changes abruptly when Kyunan, without warning, grabs Prince Lyle's hand. Before the prince can react, Kyunan begins showering him with unexpected compliments, remarking that from the feel of his hand alone, he can tell he is incredibly strong, and adding, quite sincerely, that if he had eyes, he would surely see straight through Prince Lyle's beautiful face. The sudden flood of praise leaves the prince completely unprepared. His anger evaporates, replaced by visible embarrassment to the astonishment of the entire class. In mere seconds, Kyunan transforms what could have been a disastrous confrontation into something resembling a comedic anime skit. For perhaps the first time, Prince Lyle feels as though someone has truly stood up to him. The exam proceeds, and once it ends, the results are announced immediately. The teacher solemnly states that she will write the names of the students who passed on the board. A heavy silence fills the room. To everyone's shock, she writes no names at all, only a massive flower. After a dramatic pause, she cheerfully announces that everyone has passed. Relief and celebration erupt across the classroom. As evening falls, Kyunan prepares to return to his palace. He bids a bittersweet farewell to his new friends and most painfully to Marika, with hope for the future in his heart. He boards his carriage and leaves the school behind for good. Not long after, Kyunan attends a sorcerer examination under Jeannie's supervision. She challenges him relentlessly, throwing every test she can think of at him, but none are enough to push him to his limits. Kyunan goes even further, transforming one of his water balls into a bird and granting the power of flight. Jeannie watches in disbelief as the water creature flutters through the air. At that moment, she fully realizes that Kyunan has surpassed her ability as a teacher. Later, while sharing snacks, Jeannie finally confesses her thoughts. She admits that she is no longer fit to teach someone as extraordinarily gifted as Kyunan. The revelation hits him hard. He cannot imagine learning magic from anyone else. In a rare burst of emotion, Kyunan insists that she must find a way to continue as his teacher, even offering her more money if motivation is the issue. His agitation causes his magic to surge uncontrollably, and before he realizes it, multiple water animals spring into existence around them. Although Jeannie sympathizes with Kyunan's feelings, witnessing such a display only strengthens her resolve. She calmly explains that the gap between their abilities is simply too great for her to be of any use to him. With that, she resigns from her position and takes her leave. Kyunan is left stunned, struggling to process the sudden change. That evening at dinner, Kyunan reluctantly informs his family of Jeannie's resignation. While he is clearly shaken, his father remains composed. He redirects the discussion toward finding a new sorcerer capable of teaching someone of Kyunan's caliber. The challenge, however, lies in the fact that sorcerers of such skill typically serve royalty directly and rarely leave the palace, as they are considered invaluable assets. Still, Kyunan's father promises to speak with the king and do everything in his power to secure a suitable mentor for his gifted son.